Welcome to Families of Virtue. I'm Thomas McCuddy.
And I'm Thomas Quackenbush.
And I'm Nick Wiegand. Today we get to talk about the virtuous giving and receiving of gifts. And it's really timely since we're coming into the holidays and we are about to I'm about to go drop a whole bunch of money on Black Friday because the sales are happening. And so as we go into this, gentlemen, what is even the idea of virtuous giving?
Well, I think part of it goes back to we talk about the virtuous and the prudent thing is doing the right thing at the right time in the right way. So as we look about giving and receiving gifts, there's a sense, why are we doing this? And like you mentioned with Black Friday, a lot of people do what they do because if you're in the market for a TV and the TVs are going to be super cheap, you should go get them. Uh, but as we go into this season and we have Thanksgiving, we have Christmas, we have all these different reasons. Are we doing these things simply because it's become cultural for us to do these things? Just like with Black Friday, like I've never really been a major Black Friday shopper because I just don't have those things. I think maybe once I was like, oh, I'd really like to get this thing. Let's go see if we can find it. And we
And
did.
you're not tough enough to fight off all those vicious shoppers.
Yeah, it's just never was worth it to me in that sense. Like I just never got, it's one thing if like, see, I'm looking for something, and if they don't have that, then I'm not going to go out there and be like, well, what can I scoop up? And I think sometimes, especially with Christmas, we do some of the similar things. Like I'm going to, buy all this stuff, whether it's for my wife or my kids or even myself. There's no sense of virtue in, you know, I'm getting these things so my kids won't feel bad about not having enough stuff. Am I getting what I'm getting because I want to win some sort of approval from my spouse? Like there's no real sense of like, do we have that sense of good? Do we have that really good goal in mind? Or have we just fallen into this trap?
So, I mean, I hear you, but what's the good of giving gifts? What would be the point?
Well, and as we seek to give to others, part of this, and we use this around the holiday times. And same thing like with birthday. Like I'll wait till the birthday because we want to get something big, and we're going to invest in this person. And I view that like whether it's our birthdays, whether it's Christmas, and for those unfortunate people who their birthday falls on Christmas or around Christmas, you know, the, for them, they always feel like, wait a minute, is this a combo? And I think that goes back to it. I think they feel slighted. Oh, I'm not getting as much. I think we've turned it into how much can I profit? How much can I really squeeze out of this? That's in the terms of receiving, and maybe even in the giving, we do that. Like if I give them this stuff, then I'll get back as well. And we don't see it as this is an opportunity. This is a pretext for me to show love, for me to um, show appreciation, that there's a sense, that particularly the people we appreciate in our lives, we want to get them something nice. And we sometimes hear, well, it's the thought that counts. But there's an element, not just the thought, like I have this thought, I know they have these desires. It's kind of that total package. Am I doing it for that reason? Or like I said, am I doing it from the idea that I'm giving them this thing so that I may receive clout or I may receive praise for the gift I've given? Even if you have the right gift at the right time, but you give it for that wrong intention,
Yeah.
you give it because you want to be recognized as the ultimate gift giver. TV shows do this all the
Or
time.
the fear of not getting that right gift for that right individual.
Right.
Look, there's whole movies on just that. It's crazy.
Well, so as you guys are both talking, Proverbs 11:24 and 25, it reads, "One gives freely, yet grows all the richer. Another withholds what he should give and only suffers want. Whoever brings blessing will be enriched, and one who waters will himself be watered." Out of the ESV. Um, so kind of carrying on that same premise, what It says one who gives freely. What's the difference between giving freely and what are the alternatives to giving free?
What under compulsion, imagine be the opposite is doing because it, and I think that's Thomas was kind of alluding to that in some ways. Is it what's the motivation behind giving gifts? Is it giving it from a heart where you just you know? And I think one of the telltale signs is just that when you're giving a gift, sometimes it's like, well, is that even if that person's incapable of ever reciprocating that gift or, giving back and you're just wanting to do it from the goodness of your own heart. I think also motivated by Christ and his giving himself and like that's kind of in the back of our minds all the time when it comes to our and rather than having this season, you see December 25th as like kind of like our deadline and you're spending the next like 6 weeks from now just like, I gotta get this done. I have to go out. It's all compulsory. I feel like I'm there's, I don't even know what it is. It's like, is it just like how your kids, like would they, is it, or something cultural that we're trying to just kind of keep up with the Joneses in terms of our ability to provide for our family on Christmas or whatever holiday, all these gifts,
See, I don't think it's even, I think what it's turned into is not just for the providing for the immediate family. I picture those Christmas lists and the number of people, and I think this many times, at least in our culture, will often fall on the mom or fall on the woman more so than the men.
Yeah.
I think men are simpler creatures in that sense. Like I do whatever, but there's this sense, and I've seen this with some ladies who just felt this need. I have to go through the list. I have to get appropriate things.
Mhm.
That compulsory. If I don't do this, then that's going to hurt a relationship. These people are going to feel bad. I think we've turned this.
That's totally. I think I've fallen into that tenfold.
I think we've all fallen into that.
And the other thing with that one, with what you're saying, is the idea that the hurt that will be with someone else if you give this person a really good gift and them
Mhm.
not such a good gift. Everything's got to be even, and it's really just about kind of counting, getting your marks and making sure that everything's balanced. It's weird. Think about it.
And it is, and I know as when I was a youth pastor, teenagers would often do like the fundraisers and different things and come around and sell, and everybody was always trying to sell me. And I always told them I was an equal opportunity offender. Like I didn't buy from anybody. And I said, because I mean, I couldn't afford to, number one. I said, so I'm just not going to do that. Like I'll support you in other ways, I'll let you have the platform, whatever. But I never felt that compulsion
Mm.
to spend my money in that realm. And I think that's where it comes back to the idea of the virtuous giving and receiving. If you're doing it out of that compulsion, you're doing it out of that external pressure, you're missing the virtue behind it.
And I think that the idea of prudence, like as we get into kind of defining our terms, it's this idea of being able to do things in the right time, the right measure, and to the right like emphasis or whatever, depending on the situation. And when you're like, if you're feeling the compulsion, and like you're getting that anxiety of needing to supply, say, these gifts for your children, then like, is all of that going on inside you? Is that imaginary or is that real? Because that's what the prudence is going to dictate. It's going to say like, well, a lot of these things, a lot of these fears that I'm having and this compulsion that I'm having to get these things, am I just gathering that from the television or social media? Is my children really going to like suffer if I don't get them exactly what they want? Like all of those things that I think Thomas had brought up before too, is just like the prudence in giving and not just getting kids. Like sometimes like, if your kid has a video game addiction or has something that they're really struggling with and you're going to go buy the next system, is that really a prudent thing to do? Like, I know that like, I don't mind video games or whatever, but I'm using it as an example because are we just feeding into this consumerist idea or are we actually giving our children and our family exactly what they need? I think that's what it is. Like you're going to provide and it's good for us and it brings joy to our families being able to exchange gifts. And that's kind of the ultimate goal, not because we have to, but because we want to. I think that's kind of,
Like, so you said something a second ago, and I've been kind of chewing on it to see if I even wanted to go this direction, and you may totally shut it down. But one of the things you said a little while ago is if I gave this out of the goodness of my own. And I've never actually thought about that phrase before in this way, in that we're talking about giving virtuously. And we reflect on scripture and it talks about, even if you wicked men can give, imagine what your father can give. And then I just look at Jeremiah 17:9. The heart is deceitful above all things and desperately sick. Who can understand it? I, the Lord, search the heart and test the mind to give every man according to his ways, according to the fruit of his deeds. And so, is it possible to give virtuously if we're doing it from ourselves, or does it actually need to entail the element of honoring and glorifying God even in normal gifts?
Well, I think in terms of why we're giving, because if you don't enjoy the giving, then something's wrong. That's why there's an element. If you're giving, you should enjoy the giving of it. But now, why do you enjoy that? Is it because of the recognition you receive, or is it because of the joy you've brought within someone else? So that's why the idea of virtuous giving. I'm not saying that you should not enjoy it, as in you couldn't get anything out of it. That was a mistake. We won't go deep into this, and you'll shut me down. That was the problem with Immanuel Kant and his philosophy
Yeah.
that we have suffered from in the modern day. Kant said that you shouldn't reap any benefit whatsoever from what you do that's good, because if you do, then it's not actually morally good.
Right.
So that was one of the mistakes that we've suffered from. It's like, oh, I can't have any ulterior motive whatsoever. So
Before you keep going, can the giving of gifts, can it be morally neutral, or does it have to be morally positive or more negative?
well, I'm not sure in terms of morally positive or negative. I would say in the sense of when we're giving and we're giving to someone that we love and we're providing for them, we should enjoy that. There should be a sense that I should enjoy bringing good into the life of my loved ones, whether it's through a gift, whether it's through service, whether it's just even spending time with them.
Right.
Because when I spend time with somebody, ideally, I'm going to enjoy spending the time with them as well.
Yeah.
I think that when I'm not at secondary reception of joy, and I'm going to call it secondary because if I'm only doing it to fulfill my own desires, that's where it's become vicious giving.
Yeah.
Where I'm doing it to satisfy my own pleasures, and they happen to be.
So there is no neutral ground, is what it sounds
I
like.
don't think there should be a neutral ground, because if I'm like when I'm giving, even when I'm giving to a stranger, I am, in a sense, helping someone because they're a fellow human being made in the image of God. I should still receive the joy of being gracious. The whole concept of virtue is that you can do it quickly, easily, and it brings you joy. So when we give and when we're generous, if we're not receiving that joy, then we have this issue where we're not giving for the right reasons.
Mm.
Something's gone wrong there. So by us enjoying it, by us desiring these things, that's why it needs to be in its proper order. Because if I'm doing it first and foremost because it brings me joy, and I flipped it, it shouldn't be that. Because the idea of when you're giving to somebody, you're in the realm of justice. Justice is what is involved with the other person. You're giving them their due. Now, as we talk about giving gifts, we don't properly owe people gifts, and not like I'm paying a salary. But that's why in this realm of gratitude, the receiving, but also the joy of being generous, these things are aspects of justice that I should want. I should enjoy being generous. I should enjoy receiving from other people, which I think that's something we don't talk about a lot. We always talk about the joy of being the giver, but I have a problem, and my wife.
I'm going there now. That's your head. That was a go. Look at that. You're picking that. I think it's talked about my own issue. Okay. Felipe, I promise you'll bring it up. But I do want to just compare this, because this is something that when I talk to my congregation about giving to the Lord, I know it's not exactly the same thing, but I've told them that if you're giving out of the idea that you're just supposed to check the box, you should keep it, because you're not honoring or glorifying Him. And it sounds like this is the exact same thing when we're giving to our family members, our friends. This entire time, it's really about the heart behind it, not about um, which PlayStation level you have just your children. So now we go into receiving, and I don't want to wrap that one up, but it sounds like I have the same problem you do. Is that I don't know how to virtuously receive gifts from anybody. It's a hard thing for me.
Well, and I just because I've been thinking about this, like last like 5 minutes, like this idea because I've been waiting to talk about receiving as well. Because one of the things I recognize too is like if you're bad at like just go and everybody's like wants to offer you something or they want to help and you're just constantly I don't need anybody's help. You think that you're being modest. You think that you're doing the like you're being good in the sense that you're like, well, I can do these things. I don't want to put somebody else out. But I think it's like, how do other people exercise their and their giving if you don't ever want to receive anything that they give you? And that's what I recognize. Like we have a man at my church that just bought this nice truck, and he wants so bad. He's an older man, a gentleman, and he just wants so bad to use that truck to move something for somebody. And like he just wants me to like every time I have something, I was bringing home chairs. I had enough room in my van to bring them home, but he's like, I'll take them home for you. And like I understood it was he just wants to feel useful, and he wants like receiving that from those people that want to give is a blessing to them. It's like this whole process. And I think the idea of bringing pleasure is God endowed us with that. Like when we do the right thing and for the right reason, and we are able to meet somebody's like need in that way, we should be able to be like, okay, I'm happy that happened. I'm happy God used me to bring blessing to this person's life. So
I think in that same vein though, like with the receiving, I go back to when we had my combo birthday party and graduation party back
oh yeah,
in
yeah.
2020. So the long story very short is we had this combo party, so all my worlds collided. I had people from church, I had people from school, had people all these different places. And of course, as Stacy, wife wants me to do is sit up front and open presents. And she's like, can you do this without a stupid look on your face? And I'm like, I don't know if I physically can. Like, I didn't know. Like, it was so awkward for me to receive gifts to
Hmm.
do this. And I don't know if it's because I'm just not practiced in it, or I mean, it's not that I don't enjoy it. I mean, I enjoy receiving the gifts. I got some very thoughtful, some from awesome things, but I guess that's just the word. I'm unpracticed in the virtuous receiving of these. Like, I almost like when I would receive things, Stacy would come along. She's like, just simply say thank you and smile genuinely. And I'm like, so I would do that. And I was like, oh, this is that easy. Well, but I often go back to why is this such a problem for me? Why do I struggle with this? And but I also know that I'm also not a gift giver. I'm also the kind of person who I don't go out and give like I'm very much that's why in my house I'm always one like let's pull back. I don't have any problems at all. Really paring this thing back because I don't feel those expectations.
Yeah.
So I think that might also feed into why I have a problem with because again, it's just I think that's really advice by
Yeah, I know myself, I'm the same way, and I think sometimes it also boils down to possibly the idea of pride
Hmm.
and, maybe even possibly on a flip side of that, self-worth. Not some feel as if they're not worthy of the gifts
I
that they're
think
being
you're absolutely right on both counts. Yeah.
so and then I kinda wanna I don't wanna miss the one thing that you had brought up earlier about the idea of giving and receiving is the same way because most of the time when we receive, it's because we've dropped hints or we've asked or there's not a lot in our society, especially when Christmas comes up. Every kid makes Christmas lists and this idea of putting all of our wants and everything out there. So as we go into the holidays, as we go into the most capitalistic time in our year, this is where everything the most is done. It's called Black Friday because they sell so much that it brings the stores back into the black out of the red, right? So the point is so they can just make, money hand over fist, which is fine. But as we go into that, where does prudence and self-control, both financially and where does that come in as we're giving and receiving? Is that a virtuous side of it? Is maintaining a budget of some sort?
Oh, I think it's absolutely critical that when you go into this time, I think that helps because at a budget and you say, as a family, this is what you want to spend. And that helps you to stay to that. And like we have an idea for our kids and really going to be kind of like a combo gift, one thing for, and there's this sense we almost have this, but is that enough? Like is that enough if we just have, I mean, it's going to take our budget to do it. And this is where I'm the one who pushed that it is enough. It's just the one thing that's combo. Know that they want that. Know would bless them. Know that there's huge interest and as a benefit that it's not always something the whole family can benefit from. Then I said, that's okay. We sort of have to get the mindset. We have to know this is what is good
Mhm.
and that it's not better by the multiplicity of things. I think that's in some ways what I know I grew up with it. I know other people did, where their parents would just get them like all this stuff and they had the stocking stuff at. And from the prudent side, having that vision of the good and pursuing it, knowing that it's the good. And I think the budget also is important because break the budget or you go into debt to give gifts, that is improved. It should not be that would be I would consider that as an injustice to the whole family because
Mm.
now the family has a burden that it shouldn't have. It's one thing when you go into debt because you had medical bill or because, needed a thing like a car.
Yeah.
It's quite different that you debt for what purpose? To feed someone else's intemperance?
Yeah, it's like
To just please them?
I just picture my daughter's room with some of the stuff. I'm like, I go to the store, I see a toy that she wants, and I'm like picturing like a week from now, it's going to be like in a pile and, I'm like going to be on the out, like putting in a trash can. I'm like, I'm just literally buying her joy for a moment. And then once she gets bored with it, it goes to the pile, like that kind of thing can help me kind of realize I'm not, my daughter's always going to want things when we go to the store and she's always going to see those things and she's always going to have those desires, but I think teaching them temperance is this is what we, and kind of being honest with your family, like this is the money we have, like, and this is what we can spend, and like recognizing the fact that if we go over this budget, it's going to harm us in the future. Like I'd rather have like groceries than have another like doll for my daughter, like something that they recognize it is not, it's just like all things that are not God or not eternal, they're all going to eventually fade away and dissolve and, it's not worth it.
But I think that phrase, "buy them joy," I think that's what sort of summarizes all this because I think that's what people try to do.
Yeah.
They want to buy joy, and those toys that you get, and I say toys, whether it's children or for adults,
Yeah.
you get that and it brings that temporary joy, but then a few days later, it's no longer there. I think that's the trapping of unvirtuous giving,
Yeah.
and I think when it comes to our ability to again, we know that. We know people can buy us and in this. I think that it's for me at least, I can say for myself, when somebody's gotten me something, not about that money, it's about almost that humbling experience that they thought about me. I think that's why when you get on that true humility, that is something we're not taught how to experience and express. And I think that's why that causes us to kind of think about as we receive, are we humble enough to have that kind of appreciation?
Yeah.
Do we feel that we need to now level the playing field, whatever it is?
Or posture or like there's all kinds of options. Well, guys, I mean, this has been a great conversation, and it's very timely, especially. I fall into this trap every year. Really, I really do. I'm going to be honest, but it's given me a lot to think about, especially on the front end of the giving and the heart behind it, and how
Mhm.
it's just not.
Exactly.
It's not for no reason, and then the receiving, the humility that comes with that, and then the self control on wanting to not buy joy, but it's truly. So thanks for your time.
Thank
Could
you.
find us at familiesofvirtue.com. And we look forward to next time.
Thank you, Nick.
Thank you.